So I wasn't even going to do this because, you know, it's already been like a couple of weeks since the Doom Open Beta launched, and I was clearing out all of my computer, and I did find the footage, and I debated on whether I was going to do this or just save it till the game fully comes out, because, you know, it's beta, things could change, so is it worth it? Then I saw Pyrocynical do quite an interesting video on this, where everybody complained that his background gameplay was Doom footage, and they were all saying, oh, it sucks. And he went through each point casually about, like, you know, the gameplay, the graphics, etc., etc. And it was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I thought, why not make this a two-pronged review? Because after the beta closed, id Software did something that we'll come back to. And it's like, oh, interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a part 1. So this is going to be, as you can see by the title, Doom Part 1 brackets beta, and then in May, I think it's 2 weeks away, then in 2 weeks when the game fully comes out, it'll be called Doom Part 2 Final. And what we're going to do in this Part 1 is we're going to look at the open beta, and I'm going to do a split video, so it's kind of a collab with Pyrocynical, even though Pyrocynical's already recorded the video. So I'm going to play a piece of his footage where he's going to casually mention the gameplay, like, oh, the gameplay's kind of like Halo, and then I will go into a more in-depth analysis, like a proper review. Is it like Halo, yes or no? And these are things I like and dislike as a proper review. So this is the part 1. This is Doom Part 1 beta. We're going to look at the beta. But wait till the end to find out what id Software or Bethesda or whoever owns the Steam page did, as it may contribute to part 2 that we're going to come back to in 2 weeks. But with all that being said, let's dive in to the Doom Open Beta Part 1 review thing.
It's probably one of the worst reviewed AAA games I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, because of the overwhelming negative reception, it can't just be one reason why it was received so poorly. It's got to be a multitude of reasons. I mean, just to throw a few examples in there, people are complaining, saying it's not like the old Doom, it's become too much like Halo or Call of Duty, just another modern military shooter. And honestly, in summary, I can understand those points. I definitely can. I've never been a hardcore Doom gamer, hear me out, but I've played the original Dooms. I've played Doom 1, 2, and 3, and they were great experiences. I mean, what people need to understand is Doom was never a story-heavy game. It was always about killing and shooting pretty much everything in sight. If you want a first-person shooter that's about story more than action, go play a Valve game. Go play Half-Life or Portal. They have great stories attached to them.
So in terms of that first point, it pretty much is. I mean, here's another clip from Joel's stream where he was playing it and saying it was a lot like Doom in his opinion.
If I can be very frank, and I can be very, I can pinch the balls a little bit here, it's basically Halo with more gore. It's not as fast-paced as, like, Quake 3 or, you know, as fast as, like, the old Doom deathmatch shit, but, for what it is, it's okay.
And it holds true. I mean, let's just keep this Joel footage running for a moment. I mean, look at that armor. That looks nothing like the Doom armor, really. It's just some generic space armor. I mean, and the fact that you can't even see the Doom Marine's face, which you could in the original, you know, with that little bar across the bottom, it does make you feel like you're playing more as a Master Chief clone than you do a Doom game. And then the other things that it has are like all of the classic modern shooter tropes, I guess we'll call them. Like, we have the experience upon death, because, you know, there's got to be a fucking level up system in a modern shooter, as there is always. It has the weapon customization, which we'll come back to in a second. And the gameplay, like the pace of the game, does feel quite slow when compared to its original counterparts of Doom 1, 2, and 3. So, yeah, it pretty much does feel like, even though id Software said, oh, we're totally going to make this for the fans and it's going to be like the originals, it doesn't feel like the originals. Like, it looks like Doom, it plays kind of like Doom, but at the same time, it also kind of plays like Call of Duty and Halo and all the other modern military shooters where it's just like no life, basically. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like, oh, we just made it because fans wanted it, but we didn't make it for the fans. We just made it because fans want it, and we know that those stupid idiots will buy it. It's got no real passion in it, so it just feels like any other modern shooter.
Now, one of the reoccurring criticisms of the game in the reviews was people talking about how much it's too much like Call of Duty, like for example, with the weapon customization and the emotes. Now, after seeing that point, it was pretty fucking retarded because, let's be fair, think about it, literally every single game at this point has the whole top 3 players and then they do stupid emotes or taunts. I mean, the earliest I remember was Far Cry 3, but I'm pretty sure it predates that by quite a lot. This whole taunt thing at the end of the match is literally nothing new, and people giving it so much shit, it's really unnecessary.
I have to kind of disagree with Pyrocynical on that first point there. Like, this might just be old man Spyro who's played all of the old games like Duke Nukem 3D talking, but I do find emotes pretty fucking stupid. Like, even in Dark Souls, you know, it's fine when you do PvP and you can have like the one emote where it's like the bow, because it's like, oh, you're bowing to symbolize that you want a fair fight with this guy and it's a duel. 1 or 2 emotes is fine, but like that stupid bit at the end, like I'll put the clip on now. This stupid bit at the end here where they're all dancing, like because Joel managed to get in the top 3, because I can't get into the top 3. I'll just tell you that. I'm crap at the game. I can't get into the top 3, but like this little area here where they're all dancing around being like, oh, stupid emotes. It's pointless to me. It's not worth it. Just like, yeah, this guy got in the top 3. Move along. I want to play the next game. I don't need to see this idiot dancing around for 10 seconds. Let's just get into the next game. So, to me, like, emotes are stupid. It's just a stupid modern trend that is unnecessary. Especially in the Doom game that was supposed to be made for the fans. Like, ugh.
And also about the weapon customization, that really isn't that bad. I mean, from the beta alone, there was a lot you could choose from. You could put different patterns on your guns, you could choose primary and secondary colours. The game also went next step as well by being able to choose the wear and tear of your gun. Like for example, you could make it look completely pristine, or you could make it look rusted as fuck and barely working. I honestly love that touch because I can't really think of any games off the top of my head that have that ability. Sure, a lot of games let you add a camo or a colour, but choosing the rust quality or the actual condition of your gun is a really nice feature. But on the other side of the coin, people could really complain about that, and it's totally understandable. Take Counter-Strike Global Offensive, for example. There's an entire economy built around the skins in that game. You've got factory new all the way down to battle scarred, and you don't get to choose these qualities. You can either buy them or you can unbox them in a case. And honestly, there is such a contrast between the two games, because you've got this one game where you could choose how rusted or how clean your gun looks, and in the other game you just hope you get something of higher quality because it'll look nicer and it'll probably be worth more money in the economy. The Doom gun customization is honestly going to be good in my opinion, because it's going to be one of the first games where people are probably going to want to purposely make their gun look like shit. They're probably going to purposely rust the gun to make it look more worn, like it's been used a lot more often, and that's a really nice feature. But of course, in no way am I saying that the Doom skins are better than the CSGO skins or vice versa, you know?
Now, this next point, I know some people like Malix who will be watching this are going to be outright furious with me, but I have to completely 100% agree with Pyrocynical on this. I enjoy the weapon customization. Like, I'm a guy that always enjoys customization. The more customization you can have in games, the better. That's why I love games like Fallout and Skyrim, because you can have all these crazy characters you can make, and with Fallout you can modify your guns however you want. I mean, I wish like you could have that any gun mod or any weapon, any mod in the game, but I guess I can see why it's imbalanced. And I played a lot of CSGO as a teenager, like with my friend. I think it was called Counter-Strike Source back then, and it wasn't as big as CSGO, but, you know, we liked seeing all of the different, you know, battle-scarred to pristine guns, and it was quite fun to try and get them. And this, where you can choose your rust level, like not even the secondary skins where you can make it all the pretty colours, but just choosing the rust level is really cool. It's a really nice little touch. And as he said, and I agree with him, because you're like this lone space marine that's fighting off the demons from hell, you're going to want to make your gun look as crappy as possible rather than as nice as possible. That's not to say that people won't make it look as crappy as possible while making it like bright neon pink. So it's a super rusted, completely screwed bright neon pink. So it's kind of a joke, but I have no problem with the weapon customization, and the amount of customization in the actual menus is fantastic.
Now, one criticism I actually have to lay out myself is the fact how there's no weapon attachments. There's a lot of colours and camos, but weapon attachments seem to be pretty non-existent. I mean, to an extent, this is understandable. I mean, you couldn't exactly put a silencer on a plasma rifle. I actually have no idea how that would work. I mean, to an extent, this is understandable, because you can't exactly put a silencer on a plasma rifle. But it would have been nice to see different scopes with zoom in or zoom out, or maybe some kind of laser sight to increase your hipfire accuracy. Just little touches like that definitely would have added more replay value to the beta.
Now, I had to double check this one before we began, because when playing the original Doom, I didn't remember any weapon modifications whatsoever, so I just had to go ask one of my friends that is into Doom, that's Malix, to confirm this, and he said there was one modification in the form of the backpack, which was the ammo up, so you could hold like more ammunition, but that was it. There was no like scopes or sights or anything. So, like, from what Pyro's saying, where there's a great array of colours, but he wishes there was more weapon modifications, I mean, first of all, in terms of single player, it's not really needed because the original Doom didn't have it, and if you're trying to make this game for the fans, then why do you really need the weapon modifications? And in terms of the multiplayer, you wouldn't be allowed it anyway, because, you know, just say a guy's got extra damage up or extra accuracy or things attached to that gun, they're always going to have a better chance at winning than you, because they've got mods that you might not have on your gun, and you might not be able to get them till you've got enough coins. So I'm sorry, Pyro, but I don't agree with that. Like, Doom never really had weapon mods to begin with, so not including weapon mods in this is not a down point, and nor is it even needed in the first place.
Another problem that people complained about was the boss enemy in the beta. Basically, there was a little pickup in the game where you could turn into one of the boss enemies from Doom, really similar to how you could become a Big Daddy in Bioshock 2. Just this overpowered, hulking mass that could just decimate enemies. And while that sounds really good, and it was well placed and balanced in Bioshock, in Doom, I do have to admit myself, being the Revenant, which is the boss enemy in the beta, was really fucking overpowered, like ridiculous. Just to put it in perspective, you know the tank in Left 4 Dead? You know how you pretty much all had to team up to take the tank down because of the amount of health it had? If the Revenant was in Left 4 Dead 2, you'd need about 16 players just to take it down, and you'd probably all fucking die anyway. Now, I can only speak about the Revenant because apparently there's going to be other boss enemies implemented, but the Revenant was the only one to make it in the beta. But to put it in perspective, it's a skeleton that flies with a jetpack, and it's got rocket launchers on its shoulders. And these rocket launchers are one-hit kill. If they hit you, you'll fucking die. And that's really annoying because you actually do get a rocket launcher as a standard weapon in the beta, and it's not a one-hit kill, not even close. You need about 3 to 4 consecutive hits to the body to score a kill. But with the Revenant's rocket launchers, you just fucking spam that shit and get instant kills. I mean, I do have to be honest, when I became the Revenant when I was recording gameplay, it was fucking amazing. You just decimate everything. But the problem is, when you're not the Revenant, which is 99% of the time, you're just going to be really pissed off, even if it's on your team. Because if it's a friendly Revenant, it's just going to go around stealing all the kills, because it's a fucking boss. And if you're on the opposite side of the Revenant, you're just going to get fucking memed on so badly, because there's instant kill rocket launchers.
Vital signs activated.
So the last part to Pyrocynical's video, which is the Revenant, before we move on to things that I've also found. Do I agree? Yes. Am I happy? Kind of. So, here's my thing with the Revenant. I always enjoy either playing as or controlling a boss. Like, the first ever time that I found that out was in Rayman 1. Like, when I beat the mosquito, and then we got to this scene, it's like, holy shit! We're riding on the mosquito! We are the mosquito! We're controlling the boss. We are the boss. And I was, like, so enthralled by that as a kid, and I was like, holy shit, I can do all the things the mosquito can do. That's bloody cool. Oh my god, what if you can control all the other bosses? What if you can control the saxophone man? Or the giant scorpion man? Oh, this is going to be amazing. So, you know, controlling bosses is always a joy. And like in Tai, you control the giant bull thing. Here's me riding around on a giant bull thing. That's cool. And like here in Doom, you can become a boss. And like, you can become the Revenant. That's awesome. Playing as a boss is always awesome. However, it's overpoweredness that people are complaining about. I don't like it, but I do. I think if you're ever going to become the Revenant, be that overpowered in single player, because in single player it's just computers. It doesn't matter. You want to be the boss. You want to be ridiculously overpowered and just throw all those rockets at the demons from hell and just absolutely annihilate everything. However, in multiplayer, not so much, because as Pyro said, and I do completely agree with him, and I did feel the same way when I was playing it, when you become the boss, yeah, it's really fun because you do get to decimate everything, but at the same time, when you're fighting it, it is a pain in the arse because it has the one-shot rockets and your rocket launcher can't kill it in one hit. So, I like the idea of playing as the bosses, and if you play as the bosses in single player, that'd be really cool. Like, I want to just decimate shit in certain levels as the bosses in single player, with the Revenant and the other bosses as overpowered as they are now. But in multiplayer, it really needs a rebalancing for multiplayer because it's way too overpowered right now. Like, not even in terms of its health. Its health is, when I'm playing as it, first of all, you are on a timer of a minute, so you're going to die after a minute anyway. And its health isn't that good, but those one-hit kill rockets, they need rebalancing. Like, either make the actual normal rocket launcher that the Marines get a one-hit kill so that you've got an equal footing as the Revenant, or bring it down to the level of the Marines rocket launcher where the Revenant's rockets take 2 or 3 hits to kill someone. Because right now, as it stands, them rockets need to be balanced one way or the other, whether it be the Marines going up to the Revenant's level or the Revenants coming down to the Marines level of rockets. So I fully enjoy playing as a boss, but not in multiplayer. Multiplayer, it needs a rebalancing. So, 2 other things before we move on to the final verdict that weren't covered in this particular video, or that Pyro himself didn't cover, was the music and the graphics. He just kind of skipped over them. And I guess I can see why. I'm going to kind of skip over them as well. The music is alright, you know. We only got 2 levels of the open beta, like this Hell Cave and the other place, so you don't really get a good feel for the music, as it's literally just like 2 tracks, maybe like a couple more if they like swap them around, but I couldn't really tell. So I'd have to wait for the full game to properly analyse the music. But the graphics, on the other hand, look like total garbage. Like, okay, so I'm going to go back to a bit of Joel's footage right now where he's customising his man. Like, that looks untextured to me. Like, I know Joel's painted a bit of green on it for the Vine Source logo, and I don't know if he made it grey, but I think it starts as that default grey. It just looks untextured and unfinished. And then when you get into the actual game itself, and you're, like, running around this cave past everything, like, if we take a snapshot here of, like, that pile of bones and stuff, that looks like it could go on the PS2. Like, this is supposed to be the next big Doom game that needs the PS4 to run, and it's all like, oh, it needs PS4, it needs PC, big hype, super game, and it's like, dude, it certainly doesn't look like it. I could probably run that on my PlayStation 2, and my PlayStation 2 is fucking broken. It doesn't even work anymore. So, with that being said, let's move on to the final verdict. So my final verdict for the Doom Open Beta is a poor 2 out of 5. When this was announced at E3 last year, id Software were basically calling it the ukulele of Doom. You know, there's been a lot of modern shooters and everybody's getting annoyed with them, but we're going to do what Platonic Games did to Banjo-Kazooie. We're going to reinvigorate and reincarnate the Doom franchise. We're going to reincarnate Banjo-Kazooie into ukulele, and it's going to be just exactly like it was back in the days. And you know, that's what they did with Doom. They were like, we're going to make Doom exactly like it was back in the days. For all of you fans that have not had a real Doom game, it's going to be exactly like it was back in the day. We are the ukulele of the Doom franchise. And that's not being shown here. Like, from the multiplayer alone, as both myself, Pyrocynical, and Joel says, it feels very much like a Halo game or a Call of Duty, you know, any modern military shooter. There are stupid elements like those fucking emojis and leveling up systems, and it's not what the fans wanted. It's not what anybody really wanted. We could just play Halo if we want some sort of leveling up system. So, you know, the multiplayer alone, granted we haven't seen the single player yet, and this has so much room to improve and it could still be amazing, but from the multiplayer alone, it looks like it's just going to be another average shooter that's a dime a dozen nowadays. Something that's going to get a bit of hype at launch because it's got the Doom name, but it's going to be quickly blown by the wayside. So, you know, you gotta really fix your shit, Bethesda. I mean, here's what you gotta do, id Software, Bethesda, whoever the hell's making it. A, you gotta, like, get some texture upgrades, because the textures look kinda goddamn horrible as they stand now. B, the multiplayer needs a huge rebalancing with the Revenant. And C, you've tried so hard to make this hybrid when you should have just made Doom. Like, you've tried to add leveling up systems and emojis and all this other stuff that was unneeded. You should have just made Doom. So, that's all I can really say on the matter. If you are a Doom fan, like a true Doom fan from the originals, maybe the single player is going to be great. We won't know for 2 weeks. They've got 2 weeks to fix it, which will bring me on to my last point in a moment. But, like, if you're a Doom fan of the originals, like if you're one of these true Doom fans from back in the day, you're going to enjoy the multiplayer. There's nothing wrong with it. As Pyro says, it's still an okay shooter. It's not incompetent. It's still fun. It's still enjoyable. But it's not what you asked for. For anybody that's new to the Doom franchise that's going to be buying this to get into Doom, I mean, you're going to enjoy it a lot. Like, you're already used to, for new fans, you've probably already played Call of Duty, and you're already used to the level up systems, the emojis, and everything else. You're already used to that, so you're going to have a great time with this. So the game isn't completely incompetent, but it's not what id Software promised. But maybe the single player will indeed be what we wanted. Maybe that will be the Doom that the fans were after. And, you know, maybe from this last piece, they've listened to everything. Because when the open beta came out, as you can see by Pyrocynical's video here, it got mostly negative reviews, completely, you know, dead in the water. When you release an open beta on Steam, or so I've heard from people on the inside, once that open beta is finished, you basically get 2 buttons to simplify it down, and you have the choice to clear every single comment and review for its final release. If we look on the Steam store page right now, as you can see here, everything has been wiped. There is no negative reviews. It has been completely cleaned for its final release. And I've seen this happen before, where a game has been somewhat panned in its open beta, and all those comments were taken on board. All of the comments section was completely wiped for its final release, and when its final release came out, it got mostly positive reviews because they listened to everything that the fans said. They listened to all the criticisms, took all the criticisms on board, and fixed them. So I'm hoping and praying that id Software is doing the same. That yes, they got the shit kicked out of them during this open beta, mostly negative. No one liked it. I'm hoping that they've pressed the clear button so that when the game comes out, it will get mostly positive reviews. I like Doom. I'm not a hardcore fan like Malik's, but I like Doom. I want it to be good. So, if they've wiped everything to get that positive vibe going at the beginning, then good on you. But please, you have to have listened to people, and I hope you've wiped it because you've taken the criticism on board and not because you want to get rid of the negative criticism only for it to come back. So we'll see in 2 weeks when the final thing comes out, but as it stands right now, it's just pretty much a generic shooter that's a dime a dozen. So I guess we'll see in 2 weeks. So join me in 2 weeks where we'll be doing Doom Part 2 final release.